Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Community Dissection. I'm joined by Margaux Miller. Margaux, say hi.
Hello, everyone. Hi from Canada.
I'm so excited to have Margaux back. She has an expert and curious brain, so I always love having you on these episodes, Margaux. And today we are diving into a community that I'm super excited to dissect. I say that every time, but I really mean it every time. And this one is
the exercise in itself. Yeah,
it's always fun for me. So this week we're dissecting the Figma community, and I'm going to link to some articles that I found prior to getting ready for this episode, because Figma is a little bit of an enigma. I'm a poet today, in that they really truly incorporated a community-led growth strategy from day one. And so I found a couple of resources that kind of walk through their process for launching as a community-led company. I will say, in my experience, it's pretty rare to find companies that like from day one are committed to community-led growth. It oftentimes either gets tacked on once you've kind of mastered other departments and other areas. So I think this is a phenomenal community to see. Like, they haven't just launched, obviously. They're like an incredibly popular and robust product with an incredibly robust and active community. But this one was also nominated by someone on LinkedIn. I didn't make a note of the name, but they commented that we should dissect the Figma community because not only has their community-led approach reaped financial rewards, they are also the most popular web-based design platform, both within the industry and the public. They sold to Adobe this year for $40 billion, and their community first strategy is at the core. So with that lead in,
I feel like community, Bri. Yeah.
I know. I'm really excited to see what we're going to find here. So let me share my screen. So first question for us is always, how easy is it to find this community? And I don't use Figma as a product, but Margaux, I know that you do. Do you want to share a little bit about your interaction with the product?
Yeah, so this is actually going to be a fun exercise for me today because I'm using Figma as a kind of layman's person, let's say, because our product team uses it at the company and my day job, and my really great job that I have. But our company uses Figma with the product team. So when they're doing a design with product to launch some new feature for our community, they're often sending me Figma mock-ups and things to look at. And when I first opened it, I remember being like, what am I looking at? Because it's certainly like it's got all kinds of features, but for maybe a more technical brain or someone who's used to looking at it, I have not tried to dig in myself to the Figma community aspects. But that's why I think this is going to be a great exercise, because as someone who's not the technical team, but who is a stakeholder in projects where I have to review things in Figma, I think I'll be curious to see if I feel like the community would still be accessible to me versus those like really more technical brains. So I think that'll be like a fun thing to look at today.
Yeah, and it's worth noting the collaborative nature of a tool like this like lends itself to a really phenomenal community strategy. Anytime that you have that interconnectedness baked into the product itself, like in your experience, you might not independently go and discover Figma, but because you're on the team and you are a part of the collaboration process, you are roped into it. And so community does stand to support you and basically all of the customers. Stands to have a high potential to support you well. So, right. Okay, so we've got Figma. I just Googled Figma community, and what's interesting, and I want to note from the very beginning, is that there were a couple of things that popped up here. So first is, there's just like the regular, okay, yeah. So there's figma.com/community, which I think is, oh my gosh, now it's not even showing up. That's funny.
No, right at the top there, yeah.
Is it? Okay, yes, you're right. This is, yep. Okay, great. So that was the first thing that I saw. But if you scroll down a little bit, what's interesting is you find the Figma community forum. So as we dive in, I think it's a little bit, these are like two completely separate places and spaces where they're hosting like community programs. But I think it is a little bit confusing to call both the Figma community, because my initial thought is like, okay, like this is really beautiful. As you dive more into this one, this is really like the marketplace for templates. And not necessarily that you're exchanging, that you have to buy templates. Like it seems like there's part of it that's free and open, and then sometimes you can purchase templates. But this seems more like their primary community space. So actually I'll log in here. But I thought that was fascinating that they had the same terminology for both.
Yep. Yeah, it leads to just immediate risk of confusion.
Yeah. So, okay, let's go into, let's just click around here a little bit more. So, this one, I created an account, I logged in, it was open, didn't have to like answer any crazy questions, just had single sign on with their, and this seems to be integrated with their actual software. So really like seamless. This seems like this is built into the Figma like website. This is not hosted on somebody else's platform. So these are all templates. And what's interesting is you can sort by different categories here: faster UI kits, wireframe templates, and more. There's also tags on the side. And what's interesting here, actually, one of the first, when I typed in Figma community originally, this profile was actually one of like the top 3 results. So this is for like the marketplace community. So this appears to be a company that creates templates for Figma. What I really like about this is in these profiles, they can add their website link, where to purchase. I'm thinking, I don't know what Dribble is, I'm not gonna lie. But you have your links on the side, and here you can get a really quick sense for like the popularity of the projects or templates.
Yep.
I'm gonna click into one here so we can see the example.
Dribble's like a kind of networking site for designers and creatives. They can have like portfolios and there's jobs and things on it. I think it's like a platform for designers to share work. So it kind of makes sense that that's tied in with this product.
Got it. Awesome. So yeah, it was interesting. Here I saw preview full version, get a license for their website. So it seems like they're using this marketplace as a space to share their work as designers.
It does seem a bit confusing though, because like on that page, at one point it said figma.com/@templates, but @templates I think was just like that person's username, which was quite clever because it made me think that this was like the official template page, but in fact I don't think it actually was. I think it was just this like set product group who seems to have a lot of followers because they used a clever keyword.
Exactly. Well, and when you Google like Figma templates, like this is going to be one of the first things that pops up. So very, very clever on their part.
Totally.
Yeah, so this just takes me, I guess I was able to get a copy of this template with another 138,000 people. And it took me right into Figma. Get 80 plus. Ooh, where does this take me? Smart.
Wow.
Okay, so then we get
it takes you to the set product website. So now they've got users on their site. Sure.
Yep. So really, I mean, I think it's a brilliant marketplace, like kind of this open marketplace where you're connecting designers and creators to like people who might not want to spend as much time or know as much about creating templates, but need a place to start, and a great place for them to like upsell their services or other templates. So I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I just wanted to go into it because I feel like it has the word community. If I were advising the Figma team, I would say take community out of this. It doesn't seem to have too many community-led elements other than like a marketplace is what it seems like.
Right, because everyone can share their templates here. That is a community aspect of like sharing resources, but it's really all files and templates, plugins, widgets, and just sharing them. You're right, as like some kind of like they call it open marketplace maybe, so that it's like clear that it's like free or open to sharing. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It's a gathering place, but it's really a gathering place for these like more of these transactional relationships, which is fine, but I wouldn't confuse it with community, which they do have going on over here. So let me X out of that. So over here we have welcome to the Figma Community Forum. When I looked at, so this is hosted in Discourse, which is a very like the forum of all forums. So,
Like when you say Kleenex for tissues.
yes, exactly. Discourse equals forum. So I was honestly a little bit surprised like to see them host like their entire community on a forum. I feel like there are other but let's dive in. So here we have, let's see, this is all categories by week. I thought, and let me just look at my notes here because I thought I had oh yeah. Oh, yep, that's
Okay,
right.
so other than the ones that are pinned at the top, you can see the little push pin. It looks like the rest of those are posted very recently, like during, because you have the week filter on there. It says like 23 minutes ago, an hour ago kind of thing. So, or they had activity on them that long ago. We don't know when they're actually posted, but.
Yes. And, you know, just from a UX perspective, something that I love about this course is it is so easy to get a sense for like where the activity is buzzing. When you scroll down,
Totally.
and I like seeing little profile pictures. So yeah, this seems more like it's sorted by time. I don't remember what I clicked on to get here because what I was trying to get to is this. So this is more of their, it seems like their landing page for the community forum. And this tells you all the different like channels that you can go to for information. So I just wanted to click into a couple here.
Don't you just want one of these tabs to take you to the marketplace area we were just looking at though within this platform?
Yes, totally. That's a really good call out. I love that. Yeah, because there's not, which is what happens a lot of times when you have like such robust programs that are so independent of each other. There's not really like the connection factor. But imagine, I would totally imagine that people who are asking a lot of questions about Figma would also like love access to templates, which they might know about, but they also like really might not unless you tell them. So it's a great call out. Okay, so info and announcements. The thing that I noticed when I was clicking around here is they have done a really good job in the in these posted welcome and guidelines of like really robust about what belongs here and what doesn't. I know there's like, I know at the on the one hand, it's like, does anyone ever read these thoroughly? Like, not necessarily, but it's really important to have. Actually, Noelle Flowers was writing about this week. She was talking about these community guidelines, and she noted it's still just as important to have them to point back to when you're guiding the conversation and helping people navigate where to put what. So
absolutely. That's what I would have said too. Like, you still need it because as soon as someone asks, you have a place to send them back to. Then at that point, they'll read a little more than maybe when they first got there and felt like they were in a rush to engage. And then you also have something to like fall back on for those like odd cases where something truly wrong does occur. You have something to point back to and kind of enforce a little bit from there if you have to.
Right. Well, and what happens for me as a user when I come in, it really does bother me when I go into like a conversation space and I'm given no guidelines for like what this space is for or what's appropriate, because I have a hard time categorizing like, do I belong? It's not affirming for me like, oh, I belong here or like I'm in the right place. It's not just do I belong here? It's, oh, I've come to the right place. And oh, I can definitely post my question here and it's not going to get like flagged or removed or like, you're doing this wrong.
Yeah, so sometimes you don't want to be that person, right? Like you really do. Many people come to a community and they want to participate in the right ways. So, and it was pinned right at the top, very easy to find. So even though the date here shows you it's from January, when you were in the main feed there, it's very clear that this was still the correct post for you to look at.
Yes. Yep. Exactly. And I don't know quite again how I got over here, but I did want to just look at this introduce yourself space, say hi community. Cool. Okay. Yeah, great. Okay. So latest info, or actually let's go over to ask the community because I want to see what kinds of things they're asking about. Again, great guidelines here for how to do that. The one thing that does sort of bother me about just discourse in general is that like I wish I could just like read this pinned post and then like scroll down to like write my post. Sometimes if there's guidelines like this, for example, is like their script. I'd love to still be able to see this while I am writing my post, but you don't have that. You have to like click into different pages in order to do that. It would also be awesome. What would be even more amazing is if they had these prompts, that template that they mentioned here. Oh, wait, there we go. Oh, yay. Okay. Way to go, Discourse. If these little prompts were customizable in the title and then here, which they do have, please search existing topics before posting. So that's exciting.
Yeah, that's very good.
Let's see here. Go back down. There was, I wanted to show a couple examples. Let me see here if this. Oh, yep. Okay. Share an idea. This one, so what was a little bit confusing to me is it feels like there's too many categories and a little bit too like sharing an idea versus general discussion versus there was another one, giving feedback. This is share feedback and ideas about Figma. This is give feedback, report bugs, and ask questions. These two feel like the same to me. I don't know necessarily which one I don't know how to differentiate. And then ask the community versus general discussion can also be, I think, condensed into one just to like simplify this a little bit. But let's click in because maybe there's just like a ton of activity happening for both. I did want to. So what's interesting, this is general discussion. It doesn't seem like general discussion is general discussion. It seems like these are issues, questions about how the product works, and not all of them are even a little bit more of like customer support things getting added into here. Trying to buy, but no response. So this is awesome. This Gleb just like jumped in, a general customer jumping in to answer a question, which is great.
Can we tell on here, by the way, if people are general or not?
General?
If they're like just users or if they're staff members or.
We could tell, oh my gosh, now I have so many tabs open. Okay, let's do this. Yes, so we can tell that Josh is a community manager and this little badge looks like he's a part of the Figma community. So I would assume that like Gleb here and Jenna are not. Oh, this topic will automatically close in 6 days. Interesting.
Oh, interesting. I guess to keep things fresh.
Yeah. Yep. Or to hide all the unanswered questions. I don't think that this space appears to be, people are not using it for the intended purpose from what I can tell, which I think is a little bit confusing. I just feel like with categories, there's too many options here. If I come in and I have a question, it should be really clear where to post it. Let's go back over here and see for Ask the Community. So some of these got some good action. I'm curious if the Figma team popped in here.
Oh, yeah. So 1 year and no response to the Figma team. Okay. So, I mean, teams go through phases where they have more capacity or not, but perhaps if this is the main spot where people are asking questions or running into roadblocks or issues, that we, maybe a piece of feedback would be to have a more active like support presence, unless there's a separate spot they should go to for support. Did we maybe miss that spot somewhere else?
Yeah, and I think that's okay, so we do have Figma Help Center, submit a request. Okay, so all of this is connected too. Because yeah, I do think that some people are coming in here just to get help because they don't know how to get a hold of the support team, it seems like. So maybe, I mean, I would say in the let's go back here. How to use Ask the Community. Search first, make sure to review the topic. When your question gets answered. I mean, I would add a line here that says, hey, are you looking for support from the Figma customer support team? Like
Right.
submit a ticket here.
Just to clarify that this is crowdsourced group support. The kind of questions you'd want to ask here are more along the lines of like, hey, I tried this template, but I'm running into like a hurdle. Has anyone else done this type of project before? Compared to like, hey, there's a bug and I literally can't click this button. It's not working. Two totally different types of comms to the team. Yeah.
Right. And I think it's helpful to provide those guidelines, knowing that people aren't always going to go to the right place. But that's where I think having like an air traffic controller in the community is really, this happened to me yesterday at the DMV. So I have gone to the DMV many times because I have a couple camper vans. Went to the DMV. It's always a horrid experience, but I went yesterday and there was this person at the front of the line who asked each person like, hey, why are you here? Do you have an appointment? And then guided them, like walked with them to the space where they were supposed to go and made sure that they found the right place where their question or problem would get answered. And I do feel like something like that would be really useful in this space because it's a lot of work up front to start guiding people to the right places and making sure they get to the space where their problem is going to be solved. Yeah. But over time, what happens is the community starts to notice those patterns, and people like Gleb will jump in and be like, oh, hey, this is a great question for that space, but it helps get the right things to the right places where they can actually get solved. It feels like things are kind of getting dumped into Ask the Community and not always getting resolved unless it's like a big enough issue that a lot of other people have the same issue.
Right. And then they already know the answer. Yeah. That's the best. Like, I feel like a marker of a really strong community is when the community can answer their own questions amongst them. Right. And so, we had that actually this morning. I had someone spam 10 channels in our community with like 10 different chat spaces with the exact same message, which had nothing to do with any of those communities. They didn't even get the one right spot they were meant to go. I think they were just frustrated with something. Right. So, but what was so great is in like at least half the channels, leaders, like elders, people in the community jumped in before I even had to. Like I saw it a few hours later when I woke up in my time zone, and they had the perfect response. The response from them was like, hey, this is not the appropriate channel for this. Here's where you can go. And I just thought, I even sent out some good job messages to those people directly to say, hey, you got the answer right here. Thanks so much for jumping in, because then it encourages that behavior even more. But to your point, Bri, that was probably because we'd done it enough times in the past that these kind of elders in the community, for lack of a better word, noticed and jumped in accordingly down the road.
Yeah, and to kind of help shape that, I think for the Figma team, it would be a huge lift in the beginning to help guide those responses to the right places. But at the end of the day, if 6 months from now your community has like become fluent in the language of where do we get problem solved and how, it's worth the heavy lift in the beginning to have more of that organization and have people not, post a question or have they're going to come, if they're coming here, it seems like they're probably having an issue. They're probably frustrated. They probably feel like they don't know where to go. And so that's not always a great customer experience.
Right.
let's see here.
I mean, I think the tricky thing is like, you're going to get that in any communities where you have many channels, but this one appears as though it's like a source of questions. And so that's, I think, where they're like almost doubling down by accident on like the risk that's being caused, because it's not like some of these channels are like fun channels and they're just chatting about things. It's like, it's all one area. It all appears to be Q&A where you'd expect an answer. So the help center, like relocation is definitely key. And is it on this page somewhere, that help center? I mean, it clearly says there, get help from other Figma users, right? It clearly says that there, but
that's when I search help, that's the only place. I mean, it could definitely support.
Support
you
under
know?
resources. Okay, there's the word support there under
Okay, there we go.
So if we click that, where does it go?
Probably takes us to the, this same.
Okay, it does. It takes you to the help.figma.com. So that's perfect. Mind you. Yeah. So, okay, so the follow-up really is just, oh, wow, there's a lot going on here too. Oh, no.
Oh, interesting. Okay, wait.
Okay, does this take us back to the other page? Okay, let's look at those two, explore and contribute.
I also wish that these little logos were like slightly different each time so that I can tell the difference. Just a tiny little. Okay, so this is the help center.
This is explore. Oh my gosh. Okay, now we're getting a lot of links and pages.
This is not community. This is what? Wait.
It's Figma Community Explore. So it's exploring help center resources, maybe about community.
Yes. So this is like,
we're getting more complicated here, Bri.
Oh no, Mayday. Mayday.
Someone give me a life jacket.
Seriously, put on your own oxygen mask first before you try to help a friend.
Yeah, exactly. Which one of us is going to help the other here, Bri?
Okay, so then we have contribute. Okay, this is confusing to me. So now we're calling the help forum also a community. And we're saying you can explore the help forum, you can create a community profile. This is just the perfect case study of like how not having a common language within the community industry is so, you just see it permeated in every in every brand. We just love to throw out the word community, and I feel like it should really only be used except for if you're using it to define more than one program or more than one place. It's confusing for your customers.
Yes. I think what we're seeing here, and correct me if you're feeling this is different, this is a help page. There are resources in help forums, right? Articles, sometimes they're called articles, right, of information. This is an article about setting up your profile. Like it's the support resource for setting up your community profile. But in the narration bar there, where it has community/explore/profile/create a community profile, it should not be in that order. It should just be like resources/community resources/create a community profile or something of that nature. I'm not sure why you want to explore versus whatever the other prompt was under the community header at the top. Contribute, you would think does it take you to the, no, it didn't take you to the contributing page, right? At the top there.
Contribute took me here.
Took you to resources on how to contribute to the community. But they're all still resources within the Figma Help Center. They're articles. See, it says CL 12 articles on the bottom right there. So language.
Question. When we say like resources for how to contribute to the community, what community are we talking about?
Good question. Let's click and see.
Like, okay, publish community files. Who can use this feature? Okay. Community files are design files creators have shared with the community.
Okay, this is those templates, wireframes. This makes me think we're going to end up back at that marketplace.
Yes.
Oh no. Okay.
So see, it's just where you're using community. It feels like every team just had like carte blanche to use the word community wherever they wanted. And I feel like we need a little bit more clarity and structure around like what is what. And I love like, so this help forum to me is like the content and learning side of a community, which is like a very critical pillar. Conversation is another critical pillar that I think that the forum is speaking to. Another one is events, which we haven't done a deep enough dive, and I haven't seen any events. I see like this is all longstanding content. So I'd be curious what if they have an event strategy and what it is. But it brings me back to like these ecosystems they support each other. They should not live so independently of each other that, because the person who's coming to get help, you're kind of segmenting off like a person is either coming to get help through conversation or they're coming to get help through content. But that's not how humans work when they're trying to get help. In trying to get help, they might need some longstanding content. They also might need some conversation and need to be able to ask an individual something, which could be from the community. It could be from support, but I think segmenting it by like channel, conversation, content, and then like our support team, it's not creating this like collaborative ecosystem where each of these pillars supports the other.
Yeah, unfortunately, because it's clear that there's been a lot of work done to create a lot of articles, a lot of resources, a lot of like opportunities to connect with, like to collaborate on questions that you have and projects that you're working on, like by sharing templates and wireframes and things like that. In fact, if you were the kind of person that only just wanted templates, like that marketplace area looked really good for you. Unfortunately, like typically, like many times a user wants more than one thing and they want to be able to like easily navigate around. So there's definitely some like a spider web that needs to be like just cleaned up a little bit.
Well, and not just that they want that, but don't you want that as the brand? Is like once they've, followed this breadcrumb that leads to this breadcrumb that leads to this breadcrumb. But when it's so segmented and you don't get that like real live interaction, like living, breathing interaction that is across departments, I think it's you're really limiting the journey for your customers and you're really just siloing them into one part of the experience. Which I personally have been challenged like in this whole series to me, like I think at first glance, when I dissect communities, it's always easier for me to dissect if it lives in one place, right? It's like easier for me to understand, easier to dissect. And in the beginning, I think I was pretty shocked with just the sheer number of like community-led brands and companies that don't have more of a centralized strategy or like gathering place, and how it is this is really common to have all these different areas. And I would still venture to say that like it is a community-led strategy. Like it seems like each department has these like community elements baked into it. But what I would love to see is more of a centralized approach where there's like, rather than each individual department having a community piece baked in, like how are we collaborating together to create a cohesive community experience so that the user can progress along their journey with a lot less friction.
Yep. Well said.
Okay. Do we need to go deeper into? Oh, I did want to show one more thing because this Friends of Figma interest groups I was like, oh, we're breaking into like smaller groups and maybe there's like, I don't know, a Portland chapter of Figma people and they like, maybe this is where like in-person events are happening.
Or a group of designers working on like a healthcare industry niche type of project that maybe others also are, like by project type or industry type. Yeah,
exactly. So they do have, so it's like, I don't know if this is a newer forum space. The only subgroup right now is for educators. And it does seem, okay, let's see. Actually, this is from February of 21. So I got really excited when I saw this space, but it doesn't look like there's a ton happening. It looks like this guy here, the one who like kicked things off. Like, I want to know who this guy is because he seems pretty like invested in this subgroup.
Right. He's in a lot of
And
the face pictures there. Can you click on
yeah,
him and understand more?
that, oh, wait, yes, I can. Let's see.
Ah, okay, here we go.
Cool. Okay, way too
Wow.
many statistics. I don't need all of those, but I'll
That is a
take like,
lot of statistics. Like how much time he's read things. Like, I don't really care how many minutes he takes to read something. Not publicly anyway, like back end stats,
yeah,
sure. But
yeah, but I don't
like,
need
I
the
don't
rest.
need to know his reading speed as a fellow user.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Top categories, ask the community. Yeah, I mean, so if I were the Figma team, I'd be like, okay, this guy, Miggy from Figgy, I'm not sure. He seems like pretty invested in educators. Like, let's like get on the phone with him, figure out like what makes him excited to collaborate with other educators, and how can we give him more access to and like help these educators find this interest group more. Like, how can we make it more robust? Could we do like, can we do a kickoff maybe for any interest group that launches, like a warm up kickoff call where you get to know other educators? You ask like, how are you using Figma? What are your biggest challenges? Like, these interest groups are where I think you stand to gain a lot more of those. You stand to build those one-on-one connections because there's this common point of interest and affinity.
Yeah.
And it just gives you like a micro starting point. Like, I think that's part of what's so hard about these huge communities. It's just like there's so many different problems being solved and there's so
Right.
many different people using it for so many different reasons. So if I were approaching this community, I would start with these interest groups actually as like one of the main places that I would focus to start building those small group and one-on-one interactions.
And then one thing we haven't seen today, which some communities have, is a link to events. And so with the explanation you were just giving, if there is an opportunity for people to like get together, even if it's a virtual event, like a chat room event, like a live chat for an hour or something, it doesn't have to necessarily be like video or in person. Like a speed answering, each other's questions or getting up to speed on what topics they really want to talk about within these micro communities. You could link that in somewhere here, but we haven't seen that. But events don't have to be for every community, but to your idea, like there's something there to like how to spark the smaller groups feeling this connection.
Yeah, I am curious if there are events. And maybe that's like, maybe there's a whole other world of Facebook groups or like local Figma groups that we're not seeing. Which if they are happening, like, again, one more thing to add to this ecosystem of community, like that would be amazing to get, if I'm coming in here and I'm like, oh, I don't know where to start or what questions to ask, or like maybe I start watching some tutorials in the help forum, but then I'm like, man, I just really wish I could I wish I knew someone on Big Island here in Hawaii who like was a master of Figma and could just like show me their top 3 tips, like that's, I would, as a new user, that would be a phenomenal way to get me onboarded. Okay, well, this was surprising and fun, and I feel like we both made it out.
We did. And it's interesting because where we started with me saying like, I use this as a periphery user, like I'm brought into projects where teams are really using this. And I was thinking maybe there's a community that I would want to join for, my base level necessary knowledge. But actually, with the kind of amount of spaces that we looked at together, I think I'd probably just Google quickly, like any little questions I would have, which would probably take me to like that help forum, like where I could find an article about it. And I'd probably just end there. Like, I think that the integration of the community actually kind of pushed me away a little bit because I kind of was thinking like it might feel like work to figure out exactly where to go.
Yes, too many places to post the questions, not quite sure if they're going to get answered, if it's going to be worth putting in the effort to like show up in space, if it's going to get responded to.
Yep.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Maybe I'll add to that, Bri, just like in all fairness, is that maybe these forums and community spaces that they have aren't meant for me. Like maybe I am not the main user who's meant to use them, right? Like I am not the design team or the product team. I'm not deeply using Figma. So I'm probably not their main use case anyway. If I was and I was using it all the time and I was in those categories I just described, like probably I'd be happy to like invest more time, jump in, join the community, right? We all have that threshold. So like in all fairness, I'm not the main user. but it also didn't like entice me to become deeper in it.
Yes. Yep. I think that's perfectly said. And any part of a community experience is onboarding. And so there's the onboarding to the product and there's the onboarding to the community. And so I would be curious, like what the team would say about who their target is for that community, but also like what is the community option for people who are just getting onboarded to your product? And maybe it does start in the help forum with that, like get started in some of those tutorials, but then like bring them into the fold. Like it seems like the community strategy is pretty broad. So I don't know, it doesn't look niche enough that I would say that you're not counted in the target, but maybe I'm wrong. So yeah, I think this was a journey to say the least.
Yeah.
And I like to share for anybody from the Figma team who's watching this, like I always like to say it's easy for us to be in this like superior position of judgment when we're doing a dissection, but Margaux and I are both community builders, so we know just how hard this work is. So any community strategy in any direction is really the right direction. So thank you for doing the hard work of building community for Figma. Overall, such a strong foundation here. And it's clear they have connection with their customers and they're creating these places where those customers can connect. But I think as we discussed, there's some places where that can also improve. So any final parting words, Margaux?
One other thing I thought of as you were just sharing that explanation is absolutely, I mimic everything that you just shared about being in this nice position. And every time I do one of these, I think of things that I need to go like write down and remember to do with my own team, because we all are constantly, improving what we're doing. But it's interesting that we had kind of started this conversation too with the story that you shared about how the Figma community really was a bolstering force behind like launching the product, how they really took their time and they had got a lot of feedback from their users or like potential prospective users before even launching. And so I think maybe there's a piece in that world that we like didn't even see, because if there's spaces where they're doing like feedback of product evolution and product changes and things like that and software edits, I think that there's like way more to it that maybe like, or maybe it's evolved over time, and that's maybe why there's these different places, but it's clear that they really care about the feedback and their community. So it's just some of those links, I think, and then there's a lot of good behind it.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I totally agree. It's like I'm going to link to that article because it was very clearly like a well thought out community-led like marketing strategy for their initial growth and marketing and product. It sounded like because they were in stealth mode for several years before they ever even launched to the public. So I think the heart behind it is clear. I think I'm just, we did struggle to see where that was being manifested today through the tool and in all the different community initiatives. So, my brain could use a little bit more clarity on it, but I believe that it's happening and I believe in the direction that they're going. So yeah.
I agree with you. Well said.
Awesome. Thanks, Margaux. Thanks everyone for tuning in and hope to see you on the next episode. Bye.
Bye.